Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Ars Electronica Home Delivery. This time with the focus on power to the people with regards to artificial intelligence systems. And what you've seen here in the first few seconds of this segment of our home delivery is actually a very nice introduction to our topic of today. My name is Sandra and I'm going to tell you a few things about how we are able to create, to influence, and how to train artificial intelligence systems. To give you an idea of how an AI can work, I often use this exhibit as the starting point for my tours here in-house. It's called Cloud Faces, and we actually had this exhibition for quite some time, even before we redesigned this whole exhibit of the Ars Electronica Center to focus on the topic of artificial intelligence. This one was here even before because AI has been around for a few decades, and even during the 90s, the first trials were conducted to see how well an artificial system could recognize faces. And that's what's done here with the cloud faces you see behind me. Here, an AI system was trained to recognize facial structures in clouds. So how is this possible? How was it done? Well, the AI couldn't detect anything from nothing. So they had to have a training set, a very diverse one, with lots and lots of faces. That means the AI had to study. It had to learn how to recognize the eyes, the bone structure, the ears, everything that composes a face. And once that training was completed, the system was made to look at clouds and see, okay, if you can detect a face, take a picture. And it did. So as you see behind me, you can of course recognize some faces. Some are more easily recognizable than others. And it also changes who you ask. When you have, for example, kids looking at the clouds, they see different faces, sometimes anime characters or cartoons. And if you ask adults, it also changes with the time what they see. For example, when Game of Thrones was all the craze, lots of people saw famous characters in those clouds. So it also changes who we see and the perspective of what we want to see in those clouds. It's quite an interesting concept when you think about the output of this AI system, but we also have to think about the input. So how was it trained and with which specifics in mind was it trained? And that's the topic of today. How do we train AI datasets? What can we do to make it better? Because there are a lot of problems. I will come back to that at the end of this segment. So, to train a dataset, we need a lot of information. It just doesn't do to have like 100 different pictures of faces, for example. It will not make an AI a competent resource to recognize facial structures. No, we need thousands, sometimes even millions of pictures of faces to make it work almost perfectly. Not always, but still quite a good number is necessary to create a good output. How do we get those pictures? Well, in the early days of facial recognition AI, the 90s, there were professionally made pictures in studios where people were asked to come in and say like, okay, do you want to train an AI system? We're gonna take a picture. So they did. They even got paid for it. They got their picture taken in a studio with perfect light and the perfect measurement, like you look straight at the camera, and the picture was used to train the AI. The results were less than good, because when you want to create an AI that's able to recognize a face in real life, you need to create real life situations. We are not at home at a studio, and we do not take perfect pictures all the time. And that's why the focus switched slightly to less perfect pictures and more natural ones. How do we get them? Well, it is the internet era, and with the beginning of the 2000s, we uploaded more and more pictures, actually, onto the internet, and we actually actively participated in creating better AI systems. Those pictures we upload on Facebook, on Instagram, on Snapchat. Where do they go? What are they used for? We have stronger policies now with regarding picture protection, so to say, but once you click I agree, it's done. Your photo is on the internet and basically anyone can use it. But there have been some controversy about that, and also some people wanting to change that and create awareness of how your pictures are used. And there's one website I want to show you that deals with this in great detail. It's called MegaPixels, and it's actually a website freely available online, so you can have a look with me. It's megapixels.cc. And this website was created by Adam Harvey and Jules Laplace, and they thought, okay, we need some training data sets because AI is the future. But we also need to show how those data to train is used, and also who participates in it, who uses it. So the Megapixel website you see here, I think it's already on the screen for you, has different data sets you can have a look at. Different data sets used to train different AI systems. There's actually one I want to show you, a very large one. It's called the MS Celeb 1 million. This data set was created by Microsoft, and it holds over 8.2 million pictures of faces. That's quite a huge set. So imagine like Austria has 8.8 million inhabitants, so almost all of Austria is in there. It's just a slightly different focus. It's a celeb data set. So celebrities and famous people who are often on the internet were collected here in one data set to train an AI to recognize different faces. So who is in here? Well, not just Johnny Depp or any artist or actor you might think of, but also, for example, Bruce Schneier. He's a cryptologist. So why is he here? Well, because he published a lot of things online. Or also artists are on here, journalists, and much more. And because I know what they are, I can already tell it's not just their pictures that can be found online, also some background information. So I know that Bruce Schneier is a cryptologist, and I have 107 pictures to recognize him by. This is great for me, but it could also be a problem. We're going to have a look at that to see how those data sets were used. We have to scroll down a little bit. There's a lot of information going on about how this data set was used. And for example, this is the first graph we get, which countries use the data set for research papers or for training their AI systems. China is at the very top, followed closely by the United States. So what is this data set used for? Well, various things actually. It could be for a good purpose to see like we can have more diverse sets, we can create better AI that's used, for example, in self-driving cars, that it recognizes more shapes, more facial shapes, and it can also recognize a more diverse range of people, depending on skin color, for example, or gender. But this training set also has its flaws. So when we scroll down a little bit further, we see it's been used in a lot of research papers. And only after this, we see how the distribution of age in this case works. In this data set, there are a lot of people registered between the ages of 25 to 44. So we have a lot of celebs in that age range that we have a lot of pictures for. It varies, of course, towards the end of the scale. So we have very few celebs aged 13 to 18 and between 0 and 12. And also very few 75 to 100 because there are not that many older celebrities. That's just one issue. So age is one issue, but there was another problem with this data set regarding skin color. So we know that there are a lot of white older men present in this data set. And also we know that it's not really representative of all the races. There. Although it is a charged word, I want to say this study has also been supported by one we have in our main exhibit called Gender Shades. And we want to show with this exhibit that it's important to be sensitive or to be creative and to be aware that a data set needs to be diverse in order to work. And this also has come under fire now, and also a data set from IBM They are really like one of the top players when it comes to facial recognition. And they just recently stated that in light of the Black Lives Matter protest, they will not provide any more of the facial recognition data to police control purposes because they thought it's going to be misused. So it took a study from a few years ago to data sets coming up again and again in research papers, and also some tragedies to really rethink of how we want our future with AI-based research and AI-based technological persecution to look like. So it should not be used to identify like criminals in a way that everyone is targeted and everyone is guilty until proven innocent. It should be the other way around. And in light of recent events, a lot of companies feel the same way of IBM, but IBM was the first to come forward and say outspoken that they don't want to use this technology like this anymore. And if you want to protect yourself from facial recognition software, there are some techniques to use. Adam Harvey is also all about how you can, for example, apply makeup to confuse an AI system, but you could also use something a little bit more technological advanced like this. It might look random at first, but what you see here is actually part of a prototype where you can see different faces. What you see here is an information overload for an AI system. So if you put that on your face as a mask, you could print it, for example, on a piece of cloth, the AI system would most likely not recognize you because there are simply too many faces, too much data around to recognize, to focus on your face. And there are many more such prototypes. There's even one when it comes, it looks like a painting almost. And when you hold it in front of your body, your whole person will not be identified as a human, which is kind of an interesting concept as well. So on the one hand, we have to be grateful for AI systems and facial recognition. We can unlock our phones easily, we can have self-driving cars, but we also have to be careful of how it is used, how we train it, and how diverse it should be. And it definitely should be more diverse than it is now. Right, that's it for this segment. I hope it could get you some info. Visit the website megapixels.cc. It's really worth a look if you want to know more about data sets for AI training. And I hope to see you soon for the next segment, which will be Deep Space in English. Thank you very much and goodbye.